everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my April wrap up. April was a great reading month for me. I read so much. Let's see, I read 7 books, and only 2 of them were graphic novels and everything else was a book. So really great reading month. So some of these books I may repeat because when I did my March wrap up, I went ahead and wrapped up some of the books that I read during Dewey's 24-hour readathon, which was on April 6th. So I'll just keep it brief when I talk about them in this wrap up video. So the first book was Giant Days Volume 2. This is a graphic novel. It is a contemporary graphic novel set in England, I believe, and it's about 3 friends that are in college and they're basically navigating life through university. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I do want to continue on with the series. Next, I listened to the audiobook of God's Grave by J. Kristoff. This is the second book in the Nevernight series, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It is so good. Like, if you enjoyed Nevernight, this one just takes it up even further, and it's fantastic. There are still a lot of footnotes in this book, so I highly recommend listening to it on audiobook because it just makes it so much easier to follow, and you know, there's no jumping around, and it's just more cohesive. Also, the plot itself is just fantastic. So much happens, so many twists and turns, and what we learned at the end of the book was mind-blowing, and I'm really excited to read the third one, and I think I'm just going to wait until it does come out on audiobook because I think that the audiobook just enhances the story, especially when it comes to Mr. Kindly's voice, Eclipse's voice. It's very unique. Also, keep in mind, this is definitely adult fantasy, so if Nevernight was too graphic, too violent, you didn't enjoy the language, then I don't recommend God's Grave because it goes one step further. The next book I read was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and this was our Muggle Studies book club pick for March, so I will go ahead and leave our video live show link down below so you can go check that out if you are curious about what Hannah and I talked about as far as spoilers are concerned. But I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I liked the premise. I loved the setting. I liked the plot. The only thing is this book is just way too chunky for what happens. Honestly, the first 200 pages are important and the last 100 pages are important. The middle, honestly, like this story, I don't feel warrants a 500-page book. Towards the middle, I just got bogged down with kind of repetitive scenes, but I did enjoy it. Like, Brandon Sanderson's writing flows very well. I love his description. I love his dialogue. His characters are very well fleshed out. It was just, I got bored towards the middle because it was just kind of the same thing, just being in a classroom. So that's why I docked it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I did enjoy it, and I think I'll continue on with the series because the ending was pretty good. Okay, so moving on to books that I have not talked about in my prior video. So the next book I read was 180 Seconds by Jessica Park. I enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I loved the setting and I loved the premise of it, but it was really cheesy, and there was an ending scene that I wasn't too keen on. So I do have a reading vlog where I talk about this book, so I will leave that linked down below as well. But basically, we follow our main character Allison, and when she was 16 years old, she was adopted, so her entire life she lived in and out of foster homes and group homes and stuff like that, and finally she gets adopted at age 16, and we are following her story as a junior in college, and she meets this boy who basically helps her bring her walls down and helps her to like trust people and just love and, you know, all of that stuff. So this book was a bit cheesy. There was kind of an insta-love relationship-ish. It seemed insta-love, but the author did do a good job about kind of progressing their relationship out for several months. I really, really enjoy the relationship between Allison and her adoptive father, Simon. I feel like we don't get a lot of young adult, parent, we don't really get a lot of that relationship in YA, so I really enjoyed seeing that in this book. But as I mentioned, there was a scene at the very end, kind of like a twist, I guess you could say, like kind of the climax of the story, and I personally didn't enjoy it because it's kind of a subject that I'm very sensitive to, and it definitely made me cry. So I guess it's kind of a good thing. The author did a fantastic job with that because it hit hard. I really cried and I was kind of a hot mess, but I don't know if I would have read it if I had known about that end, but I did enjoy it and I do recommend it. I don't want to give away any spoilers because it kind of is a twist, but if you are sensitive to like kids with illnesses, then I don't recommend reading this book, and that's all I'm gonna say. The next book I read was a reread and probably my favorite book of April, and that was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I love this book so much. Once again, I do have a reading vlog where I discuss my rereads on this book, and I absolutely loved it. So I started rereading it during Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and I thought I was just going to read like a few scenes here and there just because I adore Sarah J. Maas's books, and I decided just to pick it up and just do a complete reread through it. There's just so much more I picked up on rereading it. This is technically my third reread, but my second reread all the way through from like start to finish. The second time I reread it, I would say like a good chunk of it, maybe like half of it, but I kind of picked and choose the scenes that I wanted to read, whereas now I really did reread like cover to end, I guess. And 5 out of 5 stars, so good. Just, I love this world. This is by far the best one in the series. I think this is Sarah J. Maas's best book that she has wrote at all. This one and Queen of Shadows. There's just so many twists and turns, and the ending just blows your mind. So much happens. Relationships are so good. Just the world building, the magic system, all of it is fantastic. So I highly, highly recommend picking up this series if you like fantasy and fae and really good writing and really good stories. Highly recommend picking this one up. The next book I read was a Muggle Studies book club pick for April, and that was The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. So Hannah and I decided to read the Raven Cycle Quartet for our Muggle Studies book club, and we started in January. So this is the last month. This is the last book that we are reading of the series, and I adored it. This was a reread for me. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love the relationships in here. I feel like it flows really well, and it could be because I'm just used to the writing style. I can't wait to hear what Hannah has to say and our live show for The Raven King, and also Sadie, because that is also another Muggle Studies book club pick for April, which I will talk about in my May TBR. Our live show for these two books is May 4th on Saturday, like this upcoming Saturday. So we hope to see you there, and we hope that you are able to join in. And the last book that I read was a graphic novel, and that was The Runaways Volume 1, Pride and Joy by Brian K. Vaughan. So I have heard so many great things about this graphic novel. Everyone talks about it. It's, I think, one of Hannah's favorite graphic novels, and I started reading it for Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and I decided that I wanted to just continue on with the series, and luckily my public library has it available, even though Hannah had the bind up of multiple volumes, but my public library has each individual volumes, so I went ahead and checked out volumes 1 through 7. I enjoyed it very, very much. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. So basically the premise of this graphic novel is there is a group of kids and they find out that their parents are villains and they decide to become superheroes and stop their parents, and it's just very, very cool. I'm liking where the story is going. It's unique. There's interesting elements that are put in it, and yeah, I'm just very curious about learning more of the magic system and just like where the story is gonna go. Alright guys, well that is it from my April wrap-up. April was just such a great reading month for me. I put out Dewey's 24-hour readathon vlog. I also did a reading vlog last week, and I did another reading vlog this past week as well that I will probably post in the next few days. So lots of filming, lots of videos, lots of books, lots of reading. So great month, birthday month, went to see Hannah. I think it's probably one of the better months that I've had. Leave a comment down below. Let me know some of the books that you read in April, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye!